I need to use it or not.
Yeah, you need to.
Okay. Okay. All right, so I'd like to call this policy committee meeting to order. You should have an agenda there in front of you. A couple of items that I'd like to hit on. Before we do that, and Ms. Robinson brought up a good point. She said, Joe, this is my first policy committee meeting. What should I expect? So, as you all know, traditionally in the past, we have tried to get on somewhat of a schedule of, obviously there are policies that come up for review monthly. And so speaking with Ms. Moody, I just said, hey, let's try to figure out what would be best here. And obviously we meant to meet a week ago, but we weren't able to do that. And so the idea being going forward that we will have an opportunity to sit and discuss those policies that would be up for final vote and be able to make some revisions, changes, and if this had been a week ago Monday, obviously give the administration a little more time to make some adjustments if we decided we want to do that, and then after consulting with Mr. Bennett, if it was wise to do that. So that is the purpose of our meeting tonight. The first thing I'd like to do is just ask you all, you don't have it in paper copy, but you should be able to, if you've got a device with you, be able to look at all the policies that are up for second and final read this Thursday night. If you've had an opportunity to look at them through the packet that Ms. Ford sent out last week. And we'll just go through those first with any policies that you've got some concern with or want to take a look at. So I'll open the floor for that. That should be policies 2.300 through 2.810. Mrs. Thurman.
Okay, Joe, this is the one I had a problem with changing the word. This is the final copy, so I don't have the original and don't have the red line copy in front of me. Matter of fact, I printed it off and left it at home. On an equal basis, this is equitable, and I still don't understand why we're changing this word.
Which policy, Ms. Thurman?
It's policy 2.300
Okay.
on line 2. Equitable has to do with outcomes, and I just don't understand how we can always guarantee outcomes. Or we can't guarantee outcomes, actually. We can just be equal to the students. I'm sure you're going through and trying to find it. Okay. Okay. And if he doesn't change the policy, I don't know why we're doing it. And if it does, then we need to know what the difference is, how it's going to change the policy.
Is that line 8?
No, it's line, it's the first, well, I guess it is, I don't know, I don't have it in front of me, so 8 and 11, yeah. So
Mr. Bennett, I think.
There it is, okay.
I think you addressed that last time.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I know he did, and it still didn't make sense then either. I still don't understand. Okay, I know that sometimes, and they try to show you the difference in equal and equitable by showing you this little cartoon of these two kids trying to see over the fence, and then somebody gives the shorter kid a box so he can be as tall as the taller kid and see over the fence. I see this as digging a hole for the taller kid to stand in so that they're both equal, so they're both equitable. Because instead of giving somebody a hand up, it looks like that I just don't understand what the purpose is. And like I say, if there's a purpose, I want somebody to tell me. Like I say, if it's the same, why are we doing it? If it's different, how is it changing the policy?
You're looking at me.
Yeah, I know, and I know we went through all this before, and you went through all that, and it didn't make any more sense when you started, when you finished and when you started.
Let me try again. And I'll say it at the outset, this was something that Ms. Moody and her team caught that I didn't catch, but I agree with the change. So if you look at like number 3, that's the easiest way to look at it. Curriculum materials and instructional supplies are provided to schools on, let's say it's an equal basis according to grade level and need. Well, So does that mean that every student gets the exact same thing? Does that mean that every school gets the exact same thing, regardless of the size of the school? If the word equitable is bothersome, because I realize that I realize that the word equity has been kind of appropriated to mean a particular thing. We could say appropriate. We could say equal implies mathematical precision. We're going to divide it up, and there's your number. Whereas equitable or appropriate or some other synonym to me implies what you're trying to do is you're trying to allocate resources to the schools and to the students on the basis of what they need. And the rest of the rest of that policy says that according to grade levels and need, according to grade levels and need. So
right.
I think it's already assumed that we're going to be equitable. It's just that for whatever reason, when the TSBA policy committee drafted this back in the dark ages, they used the word equal, although I don't think that's what they meant. If you want to leave it as equal.
Well, I mean, the board can do what they want to do. I'm just trying to,
Truly.
because I'm not going to vote for it like this because we're doing this to all of our policies. We're going through, and anywhere the word equals used, we're changing it. We've done it time and time and time again. And it's just because it's kind of the catchword now. And it has to do with outcomes, and we cannot guarantee equal outcomes. And we can only guarantee equal access. And we can't guarantee equal outcomes. And that's what the word equitable implies, in my opinion.
Well, and so I hear what.
And maybe not this policy so much as some of the others, but I just don't understand why we're going through and changing all these if it doesn't change the meaning of the policy.
Well,
I think if you leave it as equal, it does change. I think if you changed equitable to appropriate, then it's saying the same thing.
Well, this, because things are already equitable in the fact that they already get more resources, more materials, more things because of different federal programs. I think this has to, it's already, this is state and federal, okay. If it's equal among the ones that get this, if the ones that get federal aid, then that's still equivalent. If you're giving it to all the students that qualify, then it's already equivalent.
I understand that the word equitable has a certain connotation to it.
That's why we're doing it.
Well, it's not why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So as a for instance, one of the courts that we have in Tennessee is Chancery Court, and for 200 years we've said this is a court of equity. That's and literally at the end of every complaint, a lawyer signs and asks for and such further general and equitable relief as this court may deem just and proper. So when we're talking about equitable relief, we're not talking about any kind of modern nuance. What we're talking about is what is appropriate. What does the court think is appropriate? If the administration's okay with the word appropriate, then I think that's a better word, and it doesn't than equal, and it doesn't carry some of the connotations that I think you're concerned about.
Well, like I said, people tell me I'm getting caught up in words. No, everybody else is getting caught up in words, or we wouldn't be doing this.
Words matter.
Well, I know. Yes, I know they were. I know that words and words matter a lot to me. And I've been watching this, and I haven't said anything until the other ones. I probably should have objected. Maybe this one makes a little bit more sense than some of the other ones. Maybe in one place, but not so much in the other. On an equitable basis, okay. But then you get down here, and it says equitable again, and it's like redundant because it's based according to grade level and need. That's just like being redundant to me if that's what equitable is.
Well, the first one's is personnel, and number two, it's dealing with personnel, and then in number three, it's dealing with curriculum and supplies. So it's personnel assets and then non-personnel assets, as I read that.
Okay. Well, if everybody, like I say, if it's going to be the board's wish anyway, it'll pass, so it's fine.
Well,
It's fine with me. If it's, like I say, the board will vote on it, not me.
Well,
so that'll be good. I'm good.
I'm perfectly fine to change the word
That's up
if
to
you
the board,
want
it's
to
not me.
change some words.
That's up to the board, not me. I'm good, thank you.
Okay.
All right, do we have another of these? 2.300 through 2.810 that anyone would like to take a look at?
I'm not getting any red line copies off the agenda that I'm linked to.
Which one
You won't have red line copies this time, this is second reading.
is? Second read, so
Oh,
you have to go
okay.
back to
I'm
last
sorry,
month.
previous.
Yeah, you have to go to
Yeah,
last
I
month.
pulled that up
I'm
from
sorry.
last month.
Yeah.
So if you need to see one, I can pull it up.
No,
If you want to see it.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Wingate, I'm not sure why this one's not showing up, but it's not showing up on the list, 2.806. Is it, it's in the packet, but it's not showing up on the, never mind, there it is, they're out of order. My bad.
They're in the order that they are on
Gotcha.
the memo.
I got
All right.
you. It's there.
Yeah, it's in
Yeah.
Never mind.
Okay.
Is this, can I ask about that one, the
Yeah.
one he just brought up? Is this more in line with what we're doing with the county? Why did we change that?
The state changed it, and
State
so it's in
changed it,
line
okay.
with what the state is
Yeah.
doing. It's,
So I think the
it's
public
the
needs to
biggest
know
change.
that.
That's why it caught my eye that I didn't see it, because it's
Because
probably the biggest change.
somebody had asked me about this, and I told them I thought there was a change, because I knew the county had changed theirs, and they changed.
County
theirs.
has not.
Oh,
No,
I
has-
thought the county changed it.
It's the state.
No.
The state has
Okay.
adopted this. The county, I don't know where they are in their process, but they haven't approved
Adopted
it yet.
it
But
yet.
this is in line with the new state guidelines.
Okay, all right. I think the public needs to be aware of that.
Mr. Groan, did you find what you were looking for?
Yes. I don't remember having any problems with.
Yeah.
I don't recall having any problems with any of these.
All right. Mr. King, you got anything? Okay. So just remember, those are second and final read for Thursday. All right. If we don't have any more question or discussion about any of those, let's just move on here to item number 2. Discussion of cell phone use. And I know Mr. Groan brought this up. I think, Mr. Groan, is it? Yeah, everybody else has a copy of that. So, Mrs. Ford? Well, never mind. I'll get to that in a minute. All right. So, there was discussion, I believe, at our last board meeting about district-wide cell phone use policy. And I know that Dr. Robertson had made, engaged in that a little bit. And so I just want to open the floor up for some discussion on that. Dr. Robertson, you can, if you want to address, or Mr. Groan, I know you had.
I'll defer to Mr. Grant. Do you want me to pass this kind of compilation of, I know you had this and sent.
You have a copy of
I've got
all
a hard
the
copy.
high schools in the county?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, this originally popped up for me with the rezoning of Eastridge, Brainerd, and Hickson. And all 3 schools have different cell phone policies. And then when you take a look at all of the schools in the high schools in the county, I've got one. All of them are slightly different. Some schools allow students to have their phones with them and on, silenced, and visible throughout the day. East Hamilton High School, you have to have your phones turned off as soon as you get on campus and until you're walking away from campus and in your locker all day, except at lunch. You can go get them at lunch. That's it. That's the most stringent cell phone policy in the entire district. So you go from students being able to have their phones available to them any time of the day, passing periods, lunch. I've even seen students using phones in schools in class. Didn't say anything. So I think we need a unified district-wide policy of some sort, whether that would mean maybe like Howard High School requires the students to place their phones in a receptacle in the front of the classroom when they walk in the room. Because research has pointed out that just knowing your cell phone is in your backpack is a distraction. So with the help of the TSBA, in my research, I procured a list of all 142 school districts in the state. There are 95 counties, I think 33 municipalities. Only 4 don't have a district-wide policy for high school. Only 4. And that's Kingsport City, Hamilton County, Maryville, and Williamson. That's it. So 138 have that policy, at least a policy, district-wide for their high schools. Now, of course, they're not allowed in elementary schools, and in our middle schools, they're supposed to be turned off and placed in your locker when you get to school. And you can get it when you're leaving school.
Now, is that district-wide for middle schools?
There are some variations, so it's not district-wide. And I can understand, Dr. Robinson, that you want to allow, high schools to be, principals to have autonomy. But I guarantee the policy at Brainerd is going to be difficult for the students coming, there from Eastridge. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, this isn't, like you said, this policy goes back several administrations. I know at one point, Scott, you would have to help me on this. There was a lot of conversation. This was back in probably 2014. Because there was, I don't know that it was a policy. I think it was maybe in the old, what did we call that before it was a COAB? It was the trifold that.
Yeah. We lumped it in with pagers. That's
Right.
how old this was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I don't, you'll have to help with the history, so this doesn't, this isn't even the last 5 years.
There's people in the audience who are like, what's a pager? Yeah, so we did have a district-wide policy that prohibited personal communication devices, primarily pagers, and the rationale was that it could be used to set up drug deals. Now, I don't know how that worked, but I'm told that it did. It was back, Rhonda, when we used to meet at Tyner. This is how long ago this was.
Yep.
The district, the board got rid of the policy because the board decided that different schools were wanting to move in the direction of using these things and integrate into instruction. For example, I know that at Signal, you can take polls. You answer questions on the phone, and it goes to the Promethean board. There were other schools that said, no, we're not going to do that. And so, for whatever reason, the board decided to let this be a school-by-school decision, because there were some folks who really did want to integrate this into the curriculum. That's how we got here. Now, whether that was a good decision or a bad decision, I don't know. It's within the board's province.
Well, Scott, that was before everybody had a laptop, if you recall.
Yeah.
A lot of things were
Yeah.
being done, and just like it was up to the student to buy their own laptop, and now that we provide them, that's not an issue, because a lot of people were using their cell phone for a computer at that time.
You're
And
exactly
it
right.
was, and not everybody had a cell phone like they do now.
Yeah.
And
I'm
so
just-
that's been, but that's, I remember that conversation, I
I'm just
remember that,
providing the
yeah.
history, and
Right.
your point's well taken. We now
But
have
that's-
Chromebooks, and do you need your phone now? I don't know. Like Bradley, for instance, they allow you to have your phone, but you've got to use it responsibly. But to Mr. Groon's point, they have a policy.
Mhm.
considers the personal use, the use of personal communication electronic devices as integral to the accessible application of technology in the 21st century classroom. Therefore, students are allowed to possess personal communication devices while on school property, but are expected to use them responsibly. And theirs goes so far as to talk about the eyeglasses, the rings, the watches. I mean, it's
Even the earbuds.
even the. I mean, it's. Well, I thought the eyeglasses was kind of fascinating. That's still to me kind of James Bondy, which I guess also kind of dates me with pagers. Anyway, so they do have a philosophy of really integrating all kinds of devices into the classroom however they can, but they also say if you misuse this, then there are consequences.
Well, I started to say, how can we do consequences if we don't have a policy? Even though each school has one, it's, I mean, I think we need to have a district-wide policy myself. I don't know how everyone else feels about it. I think it ought to be the same across the board. Because here again, with the code of acceptable behavior, that's one thing we wanted to make sure that it was the same punishment for the same offense. And I think this is getting into, going to be different, punishments for different offenses if you can get in trouble for one thing at one school and not at another. And the word responsible and teenager too, that's an oxymoron. A responsible
That's
teenager,
subjective.
seriously, absolutely.
Well, even Hickson says, cell phones, electronic devices, and accessories, including all listening paraphernalia, are prohibited during school hours except for the student's lunch period. So they accept that they can carry their device with them in a backpack. The policy at Hickson is almost no different than it is at East Hamilton.
I don't have, like, the example that you sent from TSBA, I mean, I think there's like a couple of word changes, I mean, that they get kind of silly, but first line, first sentence says, students may possess personal communication devices, personal electronic devices, so long as such devices are turned off and stored in backpacks. Like, turned off, like, that's gonna be hard for us to know, right, if it's turned on or off, but I mean, this example, I think we could take and put it together, because it does go down, and like you said, in East Hamilton's, they allowed in, I think, in the cafeteria, which this policy that you sent from TSBA allows that too, because it basically says in,
It's just a
administration
suggestion.
administration can approve break areas, which cafeteria would be a break area. So, I mean, I think we could start with this and,
Massage it a little bit.
yeah.
Which I would
The only thing
expect.
I'm not sure about that, we do, like, I need to check and see the consequences for offenses if they align with the COAB, but if they don't, it's pretty close. Like, we may have a first offense that is a warning or something, but we could take this and put it together and maybe even bring a first read.
Oh, I'll readily agree. Some of these consequences are rather draconian.
Yeah.
What feedback are we getting from the principals and the teachers of the disturbances that it's creating in the classroom?
I mean, anything that we would get like that would be, you know, anecdotal at best, but we've got to have APs together tomorrow and principals, I think, Wednesday. So, I mean, we could take this and put this in front of them, get some feedback.
That's what I would like you to do.
So that would help us.
That'd be helpful.
I think what they're going, like, thinking from a principal standpoint, I would want to make sure, like, and I know everybody's got Chromebooks now, but there still may be a teacher that, you know, in their class, I'm trying to think of a good example. Well, there are kids that have to do speeches in class, or there may be a teacher that wants, you know, a cell phone used where they've got notes for their speech, right? So you'd want to have some flexibility for teachers at a teacher's request or a teacher's guidance in the classroom, but I think this is written in a way that would allow for that, but I don't disagree with you for us to have a district-wide policy to make it clear and concise, and then allow a little bit of flexibility where, you know, some schools may not want in the cafeteria for kids to have cell phones, but may say at your study hall that you could have a cell phone then. So this fits within that, in my opinion.
I have one other comment to add is, and Mr. Bennett and I have had some brief discussion about this, and it's the posting of photographs and videos by students to social media. And my question to Mr. Bennett was, do parents of minors have an expectation of privacy inside the school? Since we limit who can enter our schools, why shouldn't we limit social media uploads? Because I believe that without permission, if you upload the images of a student from inside of a school, that is a misdemeanor, and depending upon what is uploaded, could be a felony. So it's, you know, I seriously think that we should limit severely a student's right to take photos or videos inside the school or on the school grounds.
I think also the parents ought to be aware of this. I mean, parents ought to have to sign and understand, because I know some of the schools still take the phones away for some 3 days, some 5 days, some 10 days. And I know it used to be, because a lot of parents say, I'm paying for that phone, you can't take that phone. You know, you've heard all the arguments. And you know, maybe we have to fix that in the policy too. Can the parent go get the phone and just not let their kid have it back? Or, because I know we got into that, some parents say, well, my kid has to have it for after school. We might fix a meet-up time with them or something like that, and I can understand all of that, but still it has to have some teeth in it, or there's no point in having one. So I'm just not real sure what the
COAB's got some stuff in there, but
Yep.
I mean,
And the
I'll
general,
say when I was a principal, I thought I guess is the statute of limitations out. Back then, it was literally the very first time we were supposed to take it up, keep it for 10 days, and a parent was supposed to come sign it out. Like,
yeah.
that's putting principals in a terrible
Yeah,
position,
right,
right?
that's what-
And
yeah.
so we've got to be a little bit, I guess we're saying they're draconian, like, we'll make sure that those offenses, but
Yeah.
I think from the photos, uploading of videos, I mean, there's some guidance in here about that we could include. I mean, every parent has the, you know, they sign the waiver about, can we take videos or photographs of your kid? That's how we do, like, our media. I mean, if we're going in to take pictures, we've got to make sure they've signed, you know, those waivers, so we could work that into it. I don't think it'd be that hard.
Then parents need to understand, if you make, at one time we had a problem with people making videos in dressing rooms and under bathroom stalls and stuff like that. And parents, they need to understand, you know, you're trafficking pornography. You start sending that stuff out, and there's very, I mean, not just us, but there's some serious consequences for that. And I don't think parents understand that, and I'm not sure how many kids understand that. I think we need to make sure they understand that it's dangerous territory.
if I could make a couple of observations. First of all, the Attorney General has issued an opinion that says we can take a child's cell phone, and we understand parents can be upset about it. But if there is a policy and it's published and people are on notice, you violate the policy, cell phone's gone. That's not unconstitutional. It's not violating any laws. So certainly we have the latitude to be draconian. I'm not saying that's a good decision, because to your point, you're putting principals in a tough spot. As far as uploading videos, I certainly think that you have fights that are oftentimes made worse in the implication that the impact it has on the victims is so much worse because of social media. I think that certainly we could add into COAB that there's a consequence for that. I think you could even use one of those draconian punishments where you lose your cell phone.
Yeah.
Um,
Or you use the privilege of having your cell phone at school.
Right. The other thing I would point out is I'm looking very quickly at 3 school boards, all of whom are members of the TSBA Policy Service, Bradley, Washington, and Marion, and they all 3 have vastly different cell phone policies. It's all 6.312, but they don't look anything like one another. So if you wanted to look, if you look at Bradley's policy, again, 6312 is basically technology is part of the day, and we expect kids are going to use it responsibly. And it feels like there's, and I don't know if this is true or not, but it feels like if someone misuses it, it's not really defined what a misuse is, but it feels like a misuse might be dealt with on an ad hoc basis. Maybe it's an aggravating factor if you disrupt class and there's the cell phone, then that's factored in. So their policy is almost like a statement of, we understand that kids are going to have this. Washington County's is much more like the TSBA model one of 1, 2, 3, restricting the use. Marion's is looks a whole lot more like COAP, quite frankly. So I think that as the administration's looking at these policies, as board members are looking at these policies, you might want to think about it through the lens of what is the legitimate use of cell phones, and what do you expect the administration to be able to enforce on a day-to-day basis?
The co-ed, it's the first offense is, a parent can pick it up, or school holds it for 3 days, and it goes 5, 10, 20.
I had this conversation with Dr. Johnson when probably the first year of his tenure, and at the time, I'm not saying directly from him, but the pushback was, we weren't 1-to-1, and we are now. And I just, as a teacher, I would welcome and I'm still obviously speaking for myself, but I would welcome hey, the cell phone's not to be seen or heard, from 7:15 to 2:15 or 8 to 3 or whatever. I mean, you can't obviously know if it's on or off, but, if it's seen or heard, then that's a violation. I just know that you can talk to numerous teachers and administrators who will tell you that cell phones either directly or indirectly drive 90% of the undesirable behavior and the issues that we deal with. I mean, they just do. I mean, directly by filming something or a social media post in the middle of the school day, or indirectly just passing on something that somebody else has sent them, and I just feel like with the devices that we now have, they have all the capabilities. I mean, is there anything a cell phone does that a tablet or a laptop can't do, as far as video, pictures, the ability to even make a call, and so yeah. And I looked at a couple things here that were passed out. I mean, I just, again, as a teacher, there are a couple schools here that are saying, hey, teachers are going to have in a secure place, they're going to have a phone caddy. Like, that's a nightmare for me as a teacher. I don't want to touch anybody's cell phone. I don't want to be responsible for anybody's cell phone. I don't want to say that I determined where the secure place was, and then it turns out to not be secure, and somebody's phone gets stolen. Like, I don't want to touch anybody's phone. So I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear it. Don't want to deal with it. You got a device been issued to you by Hamilton County Schools. If we can't use that, then we'll just we got to figure out another way to go about instruction. But I really think, from my perspective, that I just see how much it causes. And now that my oldest is in middle school, and all of his friends and all that goes on with a cell phone, I don't know. I would love to see us, and I do understand the flexibility. I mean, I'm sure there's something I'm not thinking of that a teacher does really well, that, you know, they allow their students to use cell phones for something. I would like to think it's not every day or every week. Maybe it's, you know, a particular project or an assignment or whatever, but, you know, I understand that piece of it. But I think it'd be great to just to say, hey, look, you know, I mean, being brutally honest, I don't even like them out at lunch. Like, I don't understand why they need them at lunch. I mean, other than in entertainment or to read or whatever, but, yeah, I'd love to see us just say, look, you know, from the time the bell rings in the morning until it rings in the afternoon, we don't want to see or hear them, and doesn't mean you can't have one here. I mean, you know, you may need it for something, but, anyway, yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Right here at Tyner's, a cell phone policy, I like the fact that they say that students who bring their device do so at their own risk. So if it gets broken or stolen or something like that, that's on them. That's even at after-school activities and things that, I mean, I think that's probably maybe a good thing to incorporate in there, that, you know, the teacher's not going to be responsible, the principal's not going to be responsible, so if they bring them, they do so at their own risk. I just think that's a...
How do
that's a
you,
good thing.
and I didn't look at the TSBA piece that closely, but how do they go about, Dr. Robinson or Mr. Drone, and Mr. Robinson just brought this up, just all the other accessories that go along with a cell phone, you know, whether it's a smartwatch or an earbuds or whatever, like,
It even talks about the eyeglasses, you know, so it mentions such devices include, not limited to, wearable technologies such as eyeglasses, rings, watches that have the capability to record, live stream, or interact with wireless technology. Cell phones.
I've heard of those, the eyeglasses, but I've not,
Yeah.
except on a video. I've not actually seen one. Scott, it's interesting, if the current school board members in Bradley County, their policy was last revised 8 years ago. Although it says they're supposed to review it annually, so,
Oh, they've reviewed it. They just haven't revised it.
yeah.
I mean, the policy chair in Bradley County, Vicky Beatty, looks at this stuff like constantly.
So one thing I'd like to bring up too about it, just talking to a few of the administrators, it's not the phone capability as much as, in a lot of cases, the music capability that comes along with the phone that's really causing the distractions, especially now with Bluetooth. They'll put the Bluetooth in their ear and sit with that ear away from the teacher and listen to the music. I actually observed one where the teacher was actually talking to the student, but he didn't hear the teacher. And, you know, the original educational uses, Quizlet and Kahoots and all that, those are all done now on Chromebook and stuff. I would say, Joe, the one thing I have seen, phones have gotten so advanced technology compared to Chromebooks anyway with regards to making videos and movies.
Yeah.
That's probably the one. So I could see a teacher wanting to allow students to use their phones for that, because some of the stuff that comes along with them now is amazing. But there still needs to be a policy. It might still have some autonomy for schools built into it, but it's more educational devices, I think, than just the phone itself.
well, I could see, you know, especially with some of, like, you know, Center for Creative Arts or some of our other schools that have a journalism or broad, of course they don't call it that anymore, class, but you know what I mean, where they're learning how to produce. I get that. Well, I mean, when you sign up for the class, you know, then obviously there's got to be some kind of documentation to go home and say, hey, look, you need to understand your student's going to be in a class where, you know, they're going to take videos and may even be videoed. You know, are you okay with that? Or if there's a class where, you know, a video production's got to be made and it's a project, you know, again, I understand all that.
Or would the school already have that?
It
Yeah,
depends.
Schools will, but I mean, like, you'd be surprised, like even some of the news stations, instead of carrying big cameras around, are taking videos with their phones, right? And so that's a good example of where like we would need to allow some flexibility in the policy.
I would even be okay, I think, as a teacher, hey, it's, administration saying, look, it's incumbent on you, if this is something you think you're gonna make use of throughout the year, well, we need to hear about it before the semester starts, or before the term starts, or, again, I know there's special circumstances, but, not, hey, next week we're doing this, So what, Dr. Robertson, I heard you say something about maybe tweaking or playing with what's in front of you there. I mean,
I don't know that it'll be ready for a first read by
No, I wasn't
Thursday,
expecting that.
But we could get, we could at least start getting some input and, maybe even before,
Well, this might take a while.
yeah.
I mean, I'm bringing this up in February because that'll allow this to all be massaged and the way we want it, and then get all the word out
I think it's-
before the
yeah.
next school year
Yeah, I
starts.
think what would be, like, we could get it first read in March, approved April. That allows us to get, because this will be a change for parents, be a change for kids, change for schools, so we could, like, start getting the word out before parents go, kids go on summer break.
And
So-
we need to allow time for parental input
Yeah.
across the district.
And a lot of schools start doing their school handbook in May,
Mhm.
so we need to get it before that school handbook goes out.
We'll start getting input from administration, schools, teachers. Think about how we get input from parents. I'm not sure off the top of my head if that's a survey or how we do that, but with the goal of trying to bring a first read in March.
sounds good. All right, and Mrs. Ford, the 6.304, what were we doing with that? I don't know why I'm having a hard time remembering, or at least I have
The
this.
one
Does
that we
everybody else
pulled.
have it?
Well, because that's the only reference in our policies right now to the cell phone usage.
I got you. Okay.
And that just talks about, it's really related to bullying, if they're used for bullying and that sort of thing. But that's the only reference we have, so
Okay.
that's why we pulled that.
All right,
The
any other?
reference that's on the second page, line 34.
And one other policy thing. But I think I'll bring it up with you tomorrow. I think that's the best place first.
Sounds good.
Cool.
Well, something I would like to ask about is the dress codes to be looked at.
So we have in the Code of Acceptable Behavior, I think there's actually a policy that talks about a little bit, but it's pretty broad. Showing my principal tendency here. I would be less excited about going down that path with the policy than I would on the cell phones, just because there are so many things that go into it. And it would be really hard to get everybody on the same page with dress code. I think Scott, I don't know what the actual, it talks about modest grooming and something.
Yeah. I'm actually trying to pull up the board policy on this. I know that historically, it has been delegated to the schools to develop because we have an extremely diverse student population. And so what may be appropriate in one side of the district may be incredibly inappropriate somewhere else. And then you've got differences between elementary and high school. And so quite honestly, this board has traditionally delegated to the administration of each school the authority to develop their own dress code with parental input. And that's been the only consistent requirement, is that they can develop their dress code, but they have to have parental input, and they've got to consider the needs of the community. And so you've had some some schools that have prohibited earrings. I don't think that's still the case, but I remember 20 years ago, we had a lawsuit over whether someone should be allowed to have an earring. And guess what? If you want to prohibit earrings, you can prohibit earrings. But it has been so pushed out to the schools because of different community standards that I think trying to get your arms around it at the district level might be kind of a challenge. I certainly think we could look at our policy, and as I'm sitting here, I'm clicking through it, and it's not coming up. Do we?
Well, specifically furries is what many people are coming to me about.
I'm sorry?
Allowing children to
Dress as animals.
the furries.
Yeah, okay, I've heard of that. Yes, I've heard of such.
Or are we just gonna let them act out and grow up one day?
Well, okay, so here we are. If we look under Board Policy 6301, each student has the responsibility, I'm looking at line 21, dress and groom in a manner that meets reasonable standards of health, cleanliness, modesty, and safety. To your point, Ms. Robinson, the courts recognize that one of the roles of public education is to inculcate community values into the students, and there are lots of ways that you can do this. One of the things that it's sort of recognized that we do is we teach them how to be grown-ups and to be treated and to be taken seriously in the world at large. I am aware of one district that has dealt with this, but not on a board policy level, and not even really on a grooming level. I'm actually serious about what I'm about to say. You may think I'm making it up. I promise you I'm not. But in the debate over which restroom a student might go to, there have been some students who have been saying I should be able to use a litter box because I identify as a critter. And the administration said no, we're not even going to entertain that, and they haven't. And so when someone wears cat ears on their little barrette, if they otherwise wear a barrette, they let it slide. If it becomes a distraction, then okay, then at that point you're distracting your classmates. Now we're going to regulate it. So it's been kind of a case-by-case situation, and the tipping point has been: are you disrupting the learning environment? So that's how one district I know has dealt with this. So to your question, do we have to allow it? I see certain clothing that is far more disruptive than, a hair barrette with two little ears on it. Barrette, is that what it's called? Hairband, sorry.
Headband.
Yeah, so a hairband with a little
Headband.
headband.
Even though it's on your hair.
I'll get there.
Obviously, you've never worn one.
I guess I've never worn one, as Ms. Ford has pointed out. You are correct. I'm just not that hip. So if you create Gary, you're laughing at me. So, make fun of the lawyer. I think if what we have here is a disruption, the administration already has the authority to regulate student behavior that disrupts the learning environment. I think if the feels that we need to speak to this specifically, we can.
So in COAB, it mentions 6.301, right? And then it uses almost the exact same language. It basically says, quotes some of it and says, if there's a disruption to the school environment due to this violation, blah, blah, blah. So, it's using that same language.
And I think if we keep in mind, I think the idea is appropriate dress rather than the term dress code, but.
This is called the dress and groom policy.
Yeah.
Groom. Well, 2 years from now, we'll probably have, there'll be something else, but I felt like it was only fair to my constituents to address it.
And I think what you just said, Ms. Robinson, really is an important point of reference. I think in 2 years, it will be something else. And so I think the board can certainly adopt policies that speak to the moment, or you can adopt policies that speak to larger principles. And I think the key piece here is, do you have behavior that's disruptive? And, you know, if someone has, you know, little cat ears on their headband, on their headband, is that disruptive? No, it may be silly. And if you're dealing with an elementary age student, it may be cute. You get a little older, maybe you coach the kid up. Kid wants to use a litter box in the corner of the gymnasium. No. That is beyond disruptive behavior. But by the same token, I think we can look at this and figure out in the moment, are our policy principles broad enough and clear enough to speak to this issue?
Well, and it could fall under disruption instead of dress code.
Do we have this problem in our schools?
No, which, Scott, you've just caused all kinds of,
We have
like,
some head
there's been
shaking
no
in the
request for a
Head
litter
shaking.
box.
No, I
There have been kids for years that have wore headbands with cat ears. Your example, you're just caused a firestorm by, like, now everybody's gonna think that was Hamilton
No.
County that
No,
had
I
that.
Now,
I
if
just
you
said-
haven't seen national
just
news,
said
there
it's
was
not. Yeah,
on
it's not.
NBC, there was
I
a.
understand, but we're not national news.
Oh, no,
hopefully.
not yet,
Not yet.
but,
Thanks, Gary.
no, I'm just saying,
I have
if
been.
you think it's not happening, it is, because it was on national.
I didn't say it was, but
Okay.
he used an example, and everybody's gonna think that it was our example. It's
Oh.
not us.
Except that I literally just said
People don't
another
listen
district.
that close, Scott.
Okay, well, then let me be clear. Somewhere else, and that's not just like a friend of mine. No, I mean literally not here. So
Well, Scott, I will echo what you just said. I mean, 25 years in education, I mean, news flash, 15-year-olds look for shock value. So, I mean, the bottom line is there's adults in the building, and if they can't figure it out, then we need to find somebody else that can figure it out. But I don't think we got to address a policy for something that's been going on since the beginning of time. They're looking for attention. There's going to be something different, as you say, 6 months from now. It won't be 2 years from now. It'll be quicker than that. So, all right. Anything else? All right. I guess policy committee meeting is adjourned.